Hey everyone. In this episode, we will talk about two stories published by Isaac Asimov 24 years apart. The first one is The Last Question, and this was published in 1956. The second one is called The Last Answer, and this was published in 1980. Now, these two are relatively small stories, but I think they are just amazing. They push you to think about several concepts often tackled in science fiction, and I think a lot of stories that were written later on took ideas from these stories. Let's start with the first story, The Last Question. This is a story about several interactions between humans and an artificial intelligence, and different types of AIs, to be specific. And some of the questions that you would ask yourself when reading the story are pretty interesting. For example, what will a type 1 civilization look like? And by type 1, I mean the different types based on the Kardashev scale. I'll add links to the description. Another question that you would ask yourself is, what will highly advanced artificial intelligence look like? How will we interact with it? How will we make use of it? Or will it make use of us? Now, in the last few months, ChatGPT has taken over the internet like a storm. Everyone's talking about how good it is, and it's only a language model trained on static data. Now imagine an artificial intelligence that is 1,000,000 times more accurate and has real-time data inputs. Now, what kind of questions will we be able to ask it? And one important question, as the title of the story suggests, what is the type of question that our civilization will never be able to answer, even after having asked it for millions or billions of years? What will happen when our last star burns out? These are some very interesting questions that you would be forced to think when reading the story, and you can see that they go in a lot of different directions. Let's come to the next story now, which is named The Last Answer. Now, where the last questions setting is far into the future, the last answer setting is in the present. And some questions that you would ask yourself when reading this story are, in terms of gaining new knowledge, how far can we as humans go? Now, as humans, it's hard for us to understand the nature of infinity. Minor segue, there's a Netflix documentary on this that's come out recently. And we think of infinity just as a really large number, and that works in normal conversations. But when you start doing math using infinity, things go haywire. Infinity does not obey most of the laws of mathematics. Another question that is teased out in the story is that, is eternity really that good for us as humans? I'm just reminded of another book by Asimov called The End of Eternity. Great novel, great story. But anyways, let's come back to the question that we were talking about. As humans, is eternity really that good? If you had all eternity, after a few days or years of excitement, what will you really work on or think about? But anyways, this is a very brief description of both these stories. I highly recommend reading these, because both of these push you to think about time and space and a lot of these concepts in a way that you typically won't. And this is the beauty of science fiction. You're forced to think about scales, about concepts, about ideas that you normally wouldn't. Now, there are several books that I'll talk about in future episodes where the ideas are so bizarre and yet theoretically possible that I had to pause reading them and just marvel at the brilliance of those ideas. I think that's the thing that pulls me towards science fiction so much. Anyways, we're at 5 minutes, and thanks a lot for listening to this. We'll see you next time.